Hi, and welcome back to Rooted Badger Rock's virtual workshop series. My name is Forrest Smart, back again with another cooking recipe. It is December, so we are continuing to celebrate our holiday virtual workshops, kind of just anything we're feeling from the staff or whoever is feeling like making a workshop. But I wanted to share a recipe. This one has been in my family. Actually, I think it's been around a lot of Native communities, actually, really well known in a lot of different Native communities all around the U.S., I'm guessing. But we're going to be making something that I've had for a long time. Kind of didn't like it as a kid. I think my palate just really wasn't developed quite so well when I was younger. But now I've really come to like it, and it's one of my favorite dishes, and I love it when my parents or my mom makes it. Kind of a funny name. Some people might think of it as goulash or know it as goulash, or similar to that. From what we know it as, we call it hangover soup. So kind of the origin of this is it comes from some really simple ingredients. It's a super simple recipe. It doesn't take very long to prepare. And most of this was just really cheap ingredients for back in the day. Really easy to make. I think it kind of comes from like the time of like commodity food era, when there was just not a lot to eat or not a lot to kind of get. So we got a lot of cheap things like elbow macaroni. Beef nowadays is a little bit more expensive, but ground beef kind of was a lot cheaper back in the day. So we have ground beef as well. We have some tomato juice, some diced tomatoes as well for a little bit more texture. And then kind of optional, but my mom and my grandma always put it in. They put some celery stalks in. Again, this was an ingredient I really didn't like as a kid, but now I've really come to like it. And now I just kind of look forward to it every time I'm in the soup. But again, super simple. We're going to just make it real quick. So we're going to get a large pot right here. I got a 46-ounce can of tomato juice. You can get a plastic bottle too. I just always remember my mom having a big can of tomato juice in her little, Lazy Susan or whatever. So just for me, this was really reminiscent of that, real nostalgic. I think it might have even been the Sacramento brand too. But just wanted to get a can of tomato juice for old time's sake. So we'll add this to our pot. Got a little splash, no worries. And then we also got a can of crushed tomatoes or diced tomatoes. You can do either one. Again, this just adds just a little bit more texture and just a little bit extra depth. All right. And then, as I mentioned, you can include celery. So I'm going to include our celery in this one. I'll cut out the ends. I'll just dice this into small pieces. And I'll dice up the other one. Yeah, and like I said, I really didn't like celery for a long time. Actually, I really like celery raw, but I don't like it when it's cooked in soups for some reason, or at least I didn't. So kind of a fun fact about me, kind of a weird fact, I don't know. But I've really come to enjoy my liking of celery, and I feel like it was a big step for me to finally get there. Because I think when I was younger, I would eat this soup and I would just pick out the celery, and it'd be like I just avoided it at all costs. But now I've really come to enjoy the crunch and the taste. And like I said, I think my palate has just gotten better, expanded a little bit. So got our celery chopped here. We'll just add this to our tomato juice blend. All right. Now we're gonna get this cooking on the stove real quick. Get that on medium high. Let that start to get warmed up. All right, next we're going to fry up our ground beef. So I'll get this going real quick. Yep, so just a pound of ground beef is all we're going to use. You can use whatever kind you want. This was just the cheapest kind that we had, so sticking to it. Add this in here. Let this start cooking up. But yeah, from what my mom, and actually a lot of this came, I think, from my grandma, my dad's mom. Actually used to live with us when I was a kid. And so my mom learned a lot of recipes from her as well. So this was one, I'm pretty sure she probably knew about this beforehand, but I think my grandma kind of also passed it down to her mom too. Start browning up this hamburger a bit. Again, super simple. Not a lot of seasonings in this. Really, the only seasonings we would put in is salt and pepper. The way my grandma and my mom did a lot of cooking was they would just kind of make it a little bit more plain. Like I said, just basically salt and pepper seasonings. And then they would bring out any kind of seasonings on the table for you to kind of do it up yourself. So that was how I always grew up. A lot of things were a little more plain, but that was how I really liked them, honestly. As I mentioned, my palate wasn't that great, so anything plain was fine with me. Yeah, I always remember, I'd say maybe at least once every other week or so, we'd probably have this. Like I said, it's a really quick recipe, really easy, feeds the whole family. I always just remember the smell of tomato juice being in the kitchen all the time as a kid, and this just being a pretty big staple. Yeah, I guess the name Hangover Soup, I talked to my mom about it a little bit too, or just probably reminiscing of my grandma and family back in the day of, maybe some family members or some friends went out, had a little too much apple cider or some sparkling grape juice or whatever it may be. And the next day they were just too lazy to make a big meal or to really sustain themselves. So Hangover Soup was a quick and easy dish. And yeah, super tasty. It's got your proteins, got your carbohydrates, got some vitamins from the tomato juice, and a little crunch from the celery. It's got a little bit of everything that you need. All right, so this is getting browned up pretty good here. Just a little bit longer. And yeah, so again, the ingredients for this: can of tomato juice, 46 ounce, 1 to 2 cans of either crushed or diced tomatoes, 12-ounce cans. Got a pound of ground beef here that I'm browning up. You can make into bigger sizes or real little chunks if you want, depending how fine you want the ground beef in your soup. And then elbow macaroni. I used about maybe 2 to 3 cups. You just boil that beforehand, cook it, and then we'll add it to. I actually have some pre-cooked already, so we'll just add that once we're done here. Yeah, actually, I think this might even be one of the first times I've actually made hangover soup. Because normally I always just come home and my mom whips it up really quick, and it's just never something I think about making too often. But now I think it's time for me to start bringing this into my normal routine, my normal recipes that I make. All right, so this looks pretty good. So I'm going to take this over to the sink. I know it looks like I'm going to drain it in the sink, but there's a little cup in there that I'm going to drain the grease out, so don't worry. Add our beef to our tomato juice mixture. A little stir. Yep. Another thing, this one always kind of reminded me of chili. Again, didn't like chili when I was a little kid, but once I got older and started experimenting with more foods, chili became a really important one or a really favorite of mine too. So hangover soup and chili are really close together and really ones I like to enjoy as well. But I'm gonna grab our noodles. So I said about 2 to 3 cups of noodles I got right here, just pre-cooked. So we'll add these to our soup as well. Try not to splash it. Oh yeah, this is looking just like home already. All right, we're gonna let this cook for another maybe 10 minutes just to let it come to a nice simmer. Let the meat cook out a little more. Just let all the flavors start to really go together. And then again, we could just season this with a little salt and pepper, just a little bit at first. Or kind of as my mom always did it. She lets the seasonings be at the table so then everyone else can do it up how they want to do it. Um, and then yeah, another thing we like to do, or I always grew up with, we always had oyster crackers. Sometimes my mom would slice up some cheese, some cheddar cheese, or grate some cheese for us. I think just to make it more palatable for me. Maybe that was just what it was for. But any kind of fixings you want to add into it, that's all right. Again, this is just the base, the very basic of hangover soup right here. However you want to do it. Also, maybe grab some bread, again, crackers or something to help with it. But yeah, this is I just wanted to share this cool recipe with you. Again, super simple, something I've had my entire life. I always look forward to it despite how simple it is. And yeah, just one of those recipes that really makes me feel like home, being at home. And just wanted to share that with you all. You know, it's cold outside, so it is soup season too. So this is a great one to try out real quick. And yeah, I hope you all really enjoy it. Hope you all enjoy the rest of December. We're getting a lot of snow out there, or at least in Madison area. So stay warm, maybe go play out in the snow, make a snowman, enjoy some good hangover soup. And yeah, we'll see you again for another recipe or another workshop in December. Thank you.